Under circular theory, which is the theory that all sides are equal, there is an agenda that is lifted on the enterprise of annexation. So annexing a circle would be deprived of itself the ability to corner. So since corners are removed in this system, there would only be one corner, and that would be the lobal corners of two right angles. So since these two right angles do not have multiple corners, they have four corners inside the circle. This circle would actually have only two angles, which is the imaginary angle and the radical angle. So one is an actual imaginary angle and the other is an imaginary number. And the imaginary angle is the imaginary number. While the radical angle is an imaginary angle in its completely. So if the imaginary number angle is a force angle, not only does this enclose the field of anglical copy into its seceding parts, the parts must shift into three pieces of one another just to delete itself on its other side of the top. So this means all three sides of the same angle are still part of the lobe. And the lobe of the angle would have multiple assets to it, which would be the ability to enterprise. And enterprise angles do not have permission to have an imaginary angle because they are not a radical angle. They are actually just a negative angle. So under these negative angles, these imaginary angles are actually one at a time displacing one another into being radical angles. So this means every imaginary angle is a multiple of itself, an angle. So this does not curve the angle, but allows the radical angle to control itself through the radical process of denial. The denial of angles is what allows the radical angle to multiply. And since the multiplication of radical angles exists, not only does the angles of the operation of two angles exist at the same time, the third angle is reserved for the ability to have both sides of the two other angles at the same time. So this is how a copy of an angle occurs by taking these two angles, denoting one downward and shifting the others leftward. So this happens in multiple successions of one another in the last angle, which is the corner of the downward slope. And slopes are created through the ability to adjust angles to the concave status of one another, rather than the convex strata of being able to compromise them. So if a concave lens occurs, not only do these angles have imaginary units to them, they also have imaginary vectors. And imaginary vectors would be fields of angles that do not have the ability to collude with one another because they are straight and still winding.